Mick Mulvaney, NewsNation political contributor and former acting White House chief of staff for President Trump, has something to say about this. Mick, good morning to you. These comments by Gosar, I have to touch on those, but Congressman Ken Buck recently cautioned his party again on impeachment of President Biden, saying they don't have a, quote, smoking gun linking Hunter Biden's action to President Biden. Not to conflate everything here, but the whole story has been that the GOP is straining to find any evidence of wrongdoing.
Good morning, Adrienne. It's good to be here. Not yet. Keep in mind what most Republicans, not all of them, but most of them are talking about is an impeachment inquiry, which is sort of a precursor to a possible impeachment. It's the same thing the Democrats did to Donald Trump back in 2019 when they had a whistleblower complaint about the phone conversation between Trump and Zelensky. That gave rise to the inquiry, which then turned up evidence in the transcript that the Democrats said justified the impeachment. That's sort of the same place the Democrats are now. So it's important when you listen to folks say, Republicans say we should do this, we should do that, who's talking about impeachment, who's talking about an inquiry. But I think it's fair to say that not everybody is convinced that their own party is doing the right thing right now.
Yeah, but there's so much of a lack of conviction here. I mean, getting back to Gosar's comments, there are 3 gun charges that Biden is facing, Hunter Biden. He lied apparently on a federal application. He never used the gun in this case. But was this even a Second Amendment issue here? Why was that being brought up?
Again, there's a bunch of things happening in Washington, and Congressman Gosar's comments about Hunter Biden are sort of separate from any conversations about any impeachment of President Biden. What Paul Gosar is saying is actually quite interesting. He's a Second Amendment advocate, and he doesn't believe in the background checks. Keep in mind, what happened that got Hunter in difficulty is that he lied on his background check. Under the current law, that is a lie. Congressman Gosar doesn't agree with that law, so I actually give him credit. He's one Republican coming out and saying, look, I know everybody hates the Biden family in my party, but I don't happen to think this should be against the law. It's nice to have, in my opinion, a Republican who's willing to sort of use the same standards against Republicans and Democrats. So in a strange way, I think Paul is actually being intellectually honest by saying, look, I know nobody here likes the Biden family, but I don't think this background check law is fair, so I don't think we should be using it to charge Hunter Biden. That's a rare quality in Washington, D.C. these days.
All right. Well, let's talk about Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries' latest comments, saying the GOP is in a civil war, one extreme versus another. It's very interesting. It's kind of the pot calling the kettle black, so to speak. I mean, infighting in a party, go figure. Like, it doesn't happen in the Democrats' case.
Yeah, I mean, when the country is, 300 plus million people and you've only got 2 major political parties, you're going to have infighting because there's going to be a variety of opinions inside each one. And certainly the Democrats are having a debate internally right now as to whether or not Joe Biden should even be the nominee. So that's a high-level disagreement within their party. But it's fair to say that Republicans are having a tremendous amount of infighting themselves. They can't figure out a way yet to pass any spending bill to send to the Senate before the end of September. Keep in mind, the government's fiscal year ends September 30th, so as of October 1st, unless the Congress passes a new spending bill, parts of the government will shut down. And right now, it doesn't appear that there's any path forward in the next couple of days for the Republicans to pass anything out of the House to send to the Democrats in the Senate. So I think it's fair to say that there is some division in the Republican Party, but as you mentioned, that's no party has a monopoly on that in Washington.
Yeah, infighting has kind of become par for the course within this political spectrum. Thank you very much, Mick Mulvaney. Always good to see you. Thank you for watching. Go to newsnationnow.com to find News Nation on your television provider. And don't forget to click the red subscribe button below to get more of News Nation's fact-driven, unbiased coverage.